Okay, today's video is going to be a series of short videos on how to do the different metalwork turning processes, starting first of all with facing off. Okay, so I've got in the chuck at the moment is just a piece of aluminium. You can see here that it's been cut just using a hacksaw to get down to the size to begin with before going on to the lathe. So it has got the saw marks and things on the end of the bar. So generally the first rule or the first procedure you would tend to do on the lathe is facing off, and that is essentially what it means is you're facing off the end of the bar here to get rid of your saw cuts that you've got there, but also to get a nice perfectly flat edge to then work from, and you can do your other processes. Okay, so the tool in which I'm going to use to face off the bar at the end here is my normal cutting off tool here. So we've got a triangular tip here, and I can use all three corners if need be. So I've got my leading edge here that's going to do the cutting. I have already done my pre-checks, so I've checked to make sure that the cutting tip is not damaged at the tip. I've checked to make sure that the torque screw is tight, and I've make sure that the height of the tool is correct as well. Okay, so in order to do this cutting process, I need to work with both the carriage wheel handle and the handle above, which is my cross slide. So the carriage wheel here allows me to move the carriage, or some people like to call this the saddle. It allows it to move it left and right to get closer or further away from my bar. And then also I have the cross slide here, which allows me to move my tool forwards and backwards across the lathe bed, which means I can do my cutting process. Okay, so to do the facing off process, like I said, you've got your two handles to work with, your carriage wheel and your cross slide. First thing you want to do is make sure when the machine's off, you want to make sure you set the tool up so that you're only cutting around about 1/2 mil at a time, a mil probably at most. Okay, so setting the tool up ready to go so that you're ready to start cutting. To do this cutting process, I'm just going to move the tool back slightly. All I would do is have my carriage wheel set to the correct depth. Once the machine is running, I would then use the carriage wheel and I would just move the cutting tip forwards until I get to beyond the halfway point, and then I can bring the tool back, and that will allow me to cut that surface nice and flat. If I needed to repeat the cut because maybe I've got some more saw cuts, then I can just simply take my carriage wheel, move it in a bit further, and repeat the process until I get to a nice smooth machined surface on the edge of the bar. Okay, so facing off, very quick process. You can see the difference when you get your bar cut by a hacksaw before you get onto the lathe, and then when you've machined it down using the cutting tool, you get hopefully a nice perfectly flat surface. That edge now becomes what essentially is called a datum edge, or datum lines if you want to use it that way, so you can then measure from the front edge, which is perfectly flat and level. You can measure back down the bar for whatever you're going to be doing, other processes you've got to do for your material. Okay, you shouldn't see any pip in the center of it. If there is a slight pip in the middle, it means that the cutting tool is either too low and it's basically missing the center of the bar, and you end up with a little pip in the middle. Alright, but that is facing off. First thing you would probably do on a lathe for all your material is facing off.